Hello, my name is Georgia Mitchell, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation about the Great London Smog of 1952. So first I'm going to explain what the Great London Smog is. So it was a cold winter day in London, England on December 5th, 1952, and millions of Londoners wanted to warm up their houses. So they went to burn the most abundant and expensive fuel available at the time, which was low-grade, high-sulfur coal. And so when they would burn this coal, a dark fog was created and it would go up through the chimneys. And when it started to cool, as it reached the outside air, a smog was created. And smog is a mixture of smoke and fog. This smog was trapped below the inversion layer. And an inversion layer is a layer of the atmosphere in which there is a temperature difference. So the upper layer tends to prevent the air below it from rising, therefore, in this case, trapping the smog. So here's some pictures and a few other things that continue to add to this smog were that the smog covered the sky and was this dark layer all around them. So sunlight wasn't able to reach through, so it continued to get colder, which only added to this because people wanted their houses warmer because it was colder, so they would burn more coal. And another thing that added to this was London had recently replaced their electric trams with diesel-powered buses. This smog was not ended for 114 hours, and it was cleared out because of wind and rain that came through London. Some of the short-term health effects include from 4,000 to 12,000 people died due to the smog. Due to the Great London Smog, it is hypothesized that sulfur dioxide emitted from the smog impacted many people's respiratory systems and caused breathing problems, as well as the sulfuric acid, which is very corrosive and can affect the skin, eyes, respiratory system, and mucous membranes. And the sulfuric dioxide and sulfuric acid are both due to the burning of the coal. Another effect was the visibility at the airports were reported to be 33 feet. So this caused buses and boats to stop running, cars to crash, people to stumble into the river and drown, pedestrians had to hold on to walls when they were walking, children stayed home from school, birds smashed into windows, and hospital wards and ambulances were very overwhelmed. It even talks about in the article that people who had lived there forever would be walking to their houses and not be able to find their way home because they couldn't see anything. Some of the long-term health effects include 20% of children born in London around the time of the Great London Smog reported having had childhood asthma, as well as those exposed to the Great London Smog in utero had a 7.9% increase in the likelihood of developing childhood asthma. And many of these findings were not statistically significant, and the author believes this is due to his small sample size, which was just under 3,000 people. But the author also speculates that exposure to air pollution can have long-term respiratory health effects, which may be particularly true in people who have been exposed in utero or at a very young age, when the lungs are continuing to develop. Some policy implications from this include 4 years after the Great Smog, the British Parliament enacted the Clean Air Act to control industrial and domestic smoke sources by creating smokeless zones. And then a little bit later, in 1963, in the United States, President Johnson signed into law the U.S. Clean Air Act. Then at the end of this article, they talk a little bit about what we can do. So the Great London Smog of 1952 shows us that exposure to air pollution can have long-term health consequences, even for those not yet born. The U.S. Clean Air Act and its major amendments have been supported by presidents of both political parties. Also, in this article, it emphasizes the importance for nurses to clearly articulate that clean air and health go hand in hand. Thank you so much.